My company had a telephone that rarely rung. It was a remnant from the days when there were more departments than there were at that time, and although the line was live, there were no outgoing calls and only the occasional wrong number of incoming calls. One time, I had a lot of work to do and was working alone until midnight. It was the weekend, and if nothing else, I was thinking of going out for a drink, but then an urgent job came up, and I had no choice but to work overtime until late. When the work was over, and I was getting ready to go home, suddenly that phone rang unexpectedly. Not again, I thought, because I sometimes worked late until midnight, and the phone often rang around that time. But I had never received calls which were related with my work at that hour, so whenever the phone rang, I ignored them with thinking they must be the wrong number. So I had ignored it as usual in the beginning, with expecting that after ringing for a while, it would stop. However, the ringing kept on and would not stop. I had just finished work, so I became irritated with the ringing. I thought, okay, I'll pick up the receiver of the ringing phone, and hung up. I put the receiver to my ear in case it was a wrong fax machine. So I put the receiver to my ear. And then, I heard a cheerful voice, "Hello." Oh, at last. The voice was so cheerful that I felt a little sorry to hang up. I thought to myself, well, I should tell the person on the phone that it was a wrong number and then hang up. So I answered like this, "Excuse me, this is S Corporation. I think you have the wrong number." The person on the phone said something I did not expect. "I know, it's S Corporation." "Of course I know, Mr. T." When I heard the name Mr. T, I was a little flustered, because there was indeed an employee named Chief T in another department. But, of course, he had already left. So I said, "Excuse me, my name is M. T has already left the office today." I answered politely, with thinking, there is no way he could be here at this time of night. But he replied, "No, it's Mr. T, isn't it? I'd like to see you." His tone was as cheerful as ever, and obviously it seemed he assumed that I was Chief T. Furthermore, It was impossible for him to want to meet him at this hour. Feeling weird, I tried to end the conversation and hang up the phone, so I repeated that he had already left the office and that I had the wrong person. Still, the person on the phone continued to talk cheerfully and lively. "Mr. T, I want to see you. I'm coming. I'm coming." The voices of Mr. T and "I'm coming" kept being called out. I was so frightened that I could not respond and could only listen. Then, the voices became high-pitched, like a tape being played too fast, and all I could hear was an eerie, pounding sound. The moment the pounding sound ceased, I heard a voice that changed drastically from the one I had heard before. "Just wait there." At that moment, I hung up the phone, unable to bear my fear. I decided to get out of the office as soon as possible. The moment I grabbed my bag and was about to head for the front door, the intercom rang. I looked at the door monitor under my breath, not really in the mood to answer it. A thin, tall man stood in front of the doorway. He was so tall that his face was not visible to the camera, but only up to his neck. He was holding something in his hand. The intercom rang 2 or 3 times, but there was no way I could answer it. I just stood there shaking, hoping that he would go away soon. The man bowed his head and looked into the camera on the door monitor. The man had a big smile on his face, and he was smiling with his teeth bared. His eyes were black and hollow, with no whites. "Mr. T, Mr. T, I'm here to see you." A man's voice, as bright as on the phone, echoed through the intercom into the quiet office. I couldn't look away from the monitor. The man moved even closer to the camera, and hollow eyes filled the monitor. The man continues to call out cheerfully, "Mr. T. Is he there? Mr. T. Hey." The man's face shakes back and forth. Gradually, the man's voice changed to a thick voice, just like the phone call he had just made. Then, the man's figure suddenly disappeared from the monitor. I was stuck in front of the monitor for a while. I wonder when the man would appear again, so I couldn't go outside to think about that. As I continued to watch the monitor, the dawn gradually began to break. Looking at the dimly brightening scenery outside, I found the courage to go outside. Fearfully, I approached the front door, but it was quiet and there was no sign of anyone. I unlocked the door, and the automatic door opened. Then, something fell at my feet with a flutter. It was a brown envelope. I picked it up and looked at the contents, and it was a piece of paper cut into a human shape. I put the piece of paper back in the envelope, thinking, I don't want any more creepy incidents. So I ripped it to pieces and threw it around. I walked home in the light and fell asleep early, as I had been up almost all night. I spent the rest of the weekend as normally as possible, trying to forget the spooky incident. Then, at the beginning of the week, I came to the office and heard the news of Mr. T's death. He had been hit by a train on Saturday night. His body was so dismembered that it was almost unrecognizable, and it was identified from the driver's license that he was Mr. T. As soon as I heard that, I got chills, remembering the sequence of events over the weekend. The spooky phone call, the man asking for Mr. T, the human-shaped paper in the brown envelope. Did tearing up the paper somehow affect Chief T's death? With a sinking feeling, I attended Chief T's funeral and worked against his desk where flowers had been placed. Although I cannot say for sure, a hazy feeling of guilt that I may have been partly responsible for the death of Chief T always hung over my head for a while after his death. About 6 months later, when the guilt had gradually faded, I had an opportunity to work late into the night on an urgent job. Section Chief A in the same department was also working late, leaving just the two of us in the office. Suddenly, the phone rang again. My heart almost stopped. I had almost forgotten what had happened 6 months earlier, but the phone rang and I remembered it all. While I was pale, Section Chief A approached the phone, saying, "Shut up." Before I could tell him not to answer, he picked up the phone. Yes, this is S Corporation, A. Mr. A says in a dubious tone of voice. I listened to his conversation with trepidation. My name is A, not M. Can I help you, sir? Oh, I see. I'll let him know. What? Excuse me? After hanging up the phone, Section Chief A returned with a sour look on his face, and then he said to me, the guy said something outrageous in a very cheerful voice. I was so mad that I hung up on him. The guy suddenly said, "You must be Mr. M, right?" I told him I was A, but he didn't listen to me, and the guy said he had something to tell Mr. M. I wondered what he was going to say, but he said, "I'm sorry about Mr. T." And he said, it would have been fine if Mr. M had come. I don't understand what he was talking about. I listened to Mr. A's explanation with pretending calm. A short time later, I resigned from the company. I still don't know who the caller was, or whether Chief T died because of me. Even now, I still don't know.